is Kyle Meredith with the Weekly Feed. I'm sitting next to Bob Mould here at Forecastle 2013. We got the river and ducks and everything.
I know. Do you see there's a sign out of sight that says, "No parking on wharf, cars will be launched."
Yeah, we tried to make it pretty for you. It's a nice setup. We built this all just for you.
Cool.
Hey, thanks for joining us down here.
Absolutely.
You've got this killer new record called Silver Age.
Yeah.
You got just came in with a lot of fire on this one.
Yeah, a lot of good heat on this.
Yeah, like Bob found some angst again.
Well, Bob got a lot of stuff out of his system and got some unexpected love, I guess.
Yeah.
From the fall of '08 until the summer of 2011, I was working on my autobiography, and put that out. So got a lot of stories out there for people to take in. A lot of questions that hadn't been answered. I'm sure there's a lot of new questions I'll have to answer, but it was good to tell. Yeah, that's usually what happens. What do you mean by that?
Yeah,
what do you mean by that? You've buried the body.
Well, at least it gives you something new to talk about, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different part of the conversation.
Yeah. So that was one thing, and then I hadn't been writing music during that whole 3 years.
Yeah.
So 2012 was coming. I knew that the Sugar Copper Blue 20th anniversary stuff was coming, and alongside all that, I was doing a lot of stuff with the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl had asked me to work on their most recent record. Went out and played some shows with them. So it was a combination of things.
Sure.
Hanging out with a rock band,
Kind of puts it in you.
seeing the Sugar thing coming. A lot of love. Wrote a record real quick. It's called Silver Age. Came out last September, and here we are. We're going to be playing a lot of it tonight.
That's the thing about it. I guess when I hear the record, the first thing I think, and this isn't one of those like, oh, you're in your upper years of rock or everything, but it seems like generically, you get an artist who starts at a certain point, and as the years go by, it becomes less and less angsty. But you I guess found a way to connect with that or something.
Yeah, I appreciate. Angsty is good. I wasn't thinking angsty when I wrote it. I was just sort of throwing shit around, and that maybe it landed there. Like I said, I think I was feeling particularly lovely on this record.
You get to do that. Well, I mean,
this is what my love sounds like, folks. You ought to see my hate.
Well, see, you could have written any kind of record, though, I guess, at this point, because you've done so many different styles.
Well, I did a couple dad records already, so it's cool. It's
dad records. You kind of came out of the box on a solo record, a bit more dad than this one.
It happens. Right before right before I sat down to work on the book, the record that I had put out called Life and Times was very down and more introspective. This one was just sort of piss and vinegar, and also Jason and John, my rhythm section, we've been playing together for 5 years now, and we have a sound, and it's easier for me to envision what songs will sound like with those guys. So sort of writing to the strong suit as well.
Well, when you're writing like this, and we'll call them pop songs, because in rock and roll you kind of have a few different things, so it's pop song. How hard is it just to write a pop song these days? And I guess what I'm referencing is the lead singer of XCC recently. Somebody asked him, he's like, why aren't you doing it? He's like, it's so much harder. I just can't pump pop songs anymore. Just can't pump them out. But you seem to have no problem just saying, oh, this is totally going to work and it's going to sound great and people are going to love this.
Well, Andy's a great writer. I can't speak for his system, but my own system. A record like Silver Age, I could sit down and pretend to write I could write a pretend record like that, but fortunately when I sat down to write this one, I really was feeling it, and I think that's what comes through. I think sometimes people write records, they go, oh, maybe I should write this kind of record now, and it sounds like they aren't really meaning it. It happens, especially if you're fortunate enough like Andy or myself to write for decades. Sometimes you write one and you're like, well, I thought that's what I wanted to do, but it really wasn't quite there. So
maybe waiting it out even plays a part in it. Like if you can take your time.
It's good serendipity, good timing, all that stuff. It's a black science. You hope for the best. Some of the songs it took exactly as long as it took you to hear them for me to write them. Some of them take weeks. Some take months. You sit there looking for that last line or the first line, and then
I think that's been a question of how some artists can have this really productive part of their career and never be able to make that connection again, and then some artists, yourself, Joe Strummer was a great example of that, like never lost that connection, was able to kind of keep going the entire time. Like, why does that work for some people?
Joe's in a special league, but Yeah, you never know. It's life, you know. It's the people that are around you.
Right.
It's the places that you spend your life, and you know, all that. It's pretty mysterious. Just good to have your eyes open. Sure. That's the main thing.
Well, you mentioned your book and everything, the autobiography. I know there's some artists that kind of have a problem with looking back. They never want to do that, but you kind of went there. You said, you know, I am going to do it. I'm going to get into it, and this is the whole past.
Yeah. Well, I had a standing offer from Little Brown, the publisher. They had reached out to me in 2001, and at that time I was 40 years old, and I hadn't really, you know, I was just like, write my autobiography now. So, you know, waited until 08 when it seemed like the time was right. Yeah. There was you know, stories to tell. I appreciate people who don't want to look back. You know, having done it, I'm happy not to look back anymore. Sure. And it's given me a lot of energy to look forward. But yeah, I totally hear that. You know, I thought about that a lot when I went into it. So.
Yeah. And I guess that's a problem though, when you have that long of a career, when you're part, I mean, you're part of 2 famous bands, you know, and so it's like you're always connected. You're always riding that train. That was a Richie Havens quote about Woodstock. He's always going to ride that train.
Yep.
And does that become a problem? Because, you know, Silver Age is a great record that can stand on its own, but when the reviews come out, you're definitely going to hear something about Copper Blue. And you're
going to hear something about Zenarch Gauge.
It's all going to be about that.
It's a high-end problem.
Well, sure, it is a high-end problem. But, you know, is there any part where that just became, you've got to be so defined over that to say, listen, this is this record, it's not
I used to be. I couldn't give a rat's ass anymore.
Not anymore.
It's either people like it or they don't. I like it. It's cool by me. Yeah, I've let go of that. Like I said, jokingly, but seriously, it's a great problem to have.
Yeah, sure.
Great problem to have.
And what about the unflattering parts of the book? Because you kind of gave it your all.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing, you know, artists who write their books, they're going to tell the exciting stories and the salacious stories, but to kind of give your entire self over to the art to say, no, this is the whole story.
Well, what I was trying to do with the book, and I think I did it, judging by the reactions of some people, is I tried as best I could to show people how I was in the moment. Because there's moments where in the book I look at it and I'm just like, what a asshole. You know, I mean, really, and those, and truly those were the moments where my mind wasn't always right. Yeah. You know, there's times in '93 when I was a little out of my head. There was times in '83, 4, 5 when I was pretty dour. Yeah. You know, that's, I think, the right word for that. So, yeah, I mean, I think the book shows it really well. I mean, there was moments in 04, 05 where I felt real vulnerable and stupid. There it is.
So do you think it adds to the mythology or takes away? I mean, I'm talking about the mythology of rock and roll as the rock star, you know, as that goes.
This is what we do with our lives.
Sure.
I mean, I love reading that mythology in other people's books. I didn't have a lot of it in mine because it really wasn't there. I'm pretty much a meat and potatoes guy, so it's not.
Well, I always kind of wonder about that because when you're writing the autobiography, sure, you're taking care of a lot of the hardcore fans and everything, but are you also looking at like, yeah, I've got a legacy at some point, you know?
Well, you want to. I think the biggest thing with writing a book is to not tell stories about other people that you wouldn't want told about yourself. I think it's just as a courtesy. I think that you don't try to tell other people's stories. You just try to show people your story, and that's what that's what they get.
This might keep you entirely away from this question at all. That what you just said, but you know, after all the years, after Husker Du and everything else that came afterwards, and all of these artists who say, yeah, Bob Mould was a huge influence on me. You ever just look down at one point and go, seriously? Fuck.
No, I think
Did I make that?
I think it's great. I think it's really great. It's because I feel that way about other people. You know, I have, you know, where the Townsend, Richard Thompson, the Ramones. I mean, all the, you know, music is a really strong. It's a strong art form. It takes in so many emotions and so many ideas. To have other people say that I influence their work or influence the way that they look at life, and it's sort of a weird responsibility if I want it to be, but I look at it as like, that's really great. It's really, really great.
Continuing good lineage and good music.
Yeah. It's hot potato, like I said in the book. You know, you get an idea, you hold on to it, and you throw it, somebody else catches it. So it's cool.
Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure talking. Silver Age, fantastic. We'll look forward to the next one.